Welcome back to another episode of the Joe and Todd Show. I'm Todd Wade.
I'm Joe Mathis. It's so good to be here today, even though I'm here kicking and screaming. This is not my favorite subject.
I may have had to drag him to the table today.
I tried to call in sick. This is an awful subject.
Same for me. We're going to talk about developing a timeline or a schedule of planning that really works. And this is one of the things that, honestly, we both actually struggle with.
We struggle with this a lot.
Although we love them and we also hate them.
They're a necessary evil. And I think we struggle with even putting this in an episode, but in the end, we know that a really great timeline that really works is crucial for the creative and for the creative business. Absolutely crucial. Because I think as creatives especially, we have our own timeline. You know, you kind of work when you want to work and do what you want to do and think when you want to think and come up with ideas and create and draw or whatever you want to do. And what we've learned is that the real world doesn't function that way very well.
Right.
Especially corporate world.
The key to planning is actually planning.
Exactly. And so corporate world especially loves with timelines and making sure that we're on track and doing what we say. And so...
when you're dealing with so many people, so many parties, vendors, consultants, clients, us, our team people, everyone needs to be on the same page as to what something's going to happen. And those schedules are just critical.
And I think for us and what we do, because we do a variety of creative stuff, we obviously do a ton of event planning. We have a lot of other creative projects going on. One of our challenges is trying to manage that. We haven't found a software. We're going to talk about that a little bit of apps and softwares and stuff like that. But I think one of the challenges is every week is different and every time is different. And you've got these projects intersecting and these high priority, fast-paced, Monday we're going to do this.
And factors change. Like we have an ice storm for a week and a half and
that
pushes everything back.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's really difficult. But what I've learned through the years is a lot of our clients, we have one client that, probably one of our favorite clients, she's an accountant by trade. She's now the president CEO of an organization. And she lives and breathes on the timeline. And she knows that's our benchmark. She knows that's our point of reference. And one of the things I dread is if I see her email pop up or her phone call on my phone, I know it's because we've just missed a deadline. It's like, oh no, she beat me to it. I didn't want to do that. I want to be ahead of her. And so really from her and knowing that we have a lot of clients like her, I think knowing that's their comfort.
Yes.
That's their measurement for if we're doing good or not. They don't care if our colors match or our designs, all those things we get consumed about. Mm-hmm. They don't care about shipping. They don't care about ice storms. Right. They care about meeting their deadlines and knowing that we're doing that right and well. So that's where I think a timeline becomes crucial for what we do.
Yeah.
Well, how to begin? Like, what do you start with? I think that's the hard part.
I think let's start with deadlines. How do you handle deadlines? How do you set deadlines? How do you figure it out? Like, what's the first step? And I think understanding what are the factors you've got to work with. Are there certain times that your client's not going to be available to make decisions? Maybe your vendor's not available to help with a project, or maybe we're out of town, or whatever the restrictions are time-wise. That kind of helps you set those big stones in place. Maybe there's a board meeting come up that they can't be available to.
Or they're going to make decisions by that board meeting too.
Right.
I think that's...
Or having a presentation by a certain date for a board meeting. Exactly.
And early on, we try to... I try very... what's the word? Covertly, kind of figure it out. Like, hey, how's your year going? What are you looking forward to? Are you going on vacation? I try to get some of that information very...
Is that what you're doing?
Covertly. Todd wants to... okay. When are you going on vacation? Is that Monday or is that Tuesday?
Yeah, what days is that exactly?
And so I think early on in the project scope, first of all, obviously you've got to know what's their general expectation. Is this a 1-month project? Is this a 2-year project? Is this
what's the end goal?
Yeah, what's the end goal? And like in event planning, we know it's a Friday night or it's a Saturday or it's a week or whatever. Date. And if we mess that up, it's worthless on Monday. Right. We obviously lose money. And I think the worst challenges for for us as a creative is when our clients don't give us a strong deadline. I mean, I think about the one that she said this week, or she said 3 weeks ago, oh, if you can get it around the first of the month, that would be great. Well,
we need a date on
I need a date. I know I'm going to keep thinking about it. I'm going to keep working on it.
As much as you like to be vague and
I know, yeah.
I mean, a schedule requires a date.
It does.
You got to put it down.
And I think the other challenge for us is that we work with a lot of creatives. And so, again, having those really firm deadlines are good things for us. One of my secrets that we use a lot is you call it a padded deadline. I call it touch points. So, for example, we have an artist who's going to show us some business card designs for a client. And we know we're meeting with that person on Thursday of this week. So, I told the artist, hey, I'd love to see some preliminaries on Tuesday. And we just gave it to him a week ago. So it's a really short turnaround project. It's like, hey, if I can have some preliminaries. So if I don't have those on Tuesday, then I know Wednesday morning I can text him and say, hey, you got these done? And whether he's behind or not, he's going to get those to me. So I won't miss my Thursday deadline. But he also knows it's a Thursday deadline. So I want to be honest and upfront about that. But we do touch points a lot where we're kind of touching base and say, hey, send us what you got. Let us see a rough draft. Let us have a preliminary quote. I know you don't have everything on there yet, but let's have some of that. So we can put those things in that.
Which is also, again, it's hard working with creatives to get them to show their cards ahead of time when they don't want to do that until it's all ironed out and done.
Absolutely.
But you've got to kind of insist on that. Maybe they just need to have it done a couple days ahead of time and then show it to us. If they know that that's what we're requiring of them, that helps.
So I tend to think of the timeline as being, in school, we learn about those long pieces of paper with the dates along the way. And I kind of think of timeline the same way. You've got your starting point, your ending point. And in my mind, I always visualize this big chunk of paper. I guess, again, elementary school, I think about what that looks like.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's a long piece of paper, and I'm going to put in those big chunks along the way. For us, a lot of times that's a client meeting or a committee meeting or a presentation to a board or whatever. There's big chunks along the way that we know have to have decisions. Or maybe it's a guarantee on food, or maybe it's a printing deadline that we got to meet. So we try to put those big chunks in and then go back and sometimes almost work from those individual chunks and go, okay, if a print deadline is 3 weeks before the event or 3 weeks before the project's over, then I want all the artwork completed a week before, 2 weeks before. So we're proofing, so we're doing the final edits, whatever that looks like. And so that maybe means I want draft 3 a week, 3 weeks before. Mm-hmm. So kind of put those in and measure just back from that printing. So it's like dun, 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 back to the artist begins working on concept. Mm-hmm. And I think that's how I think about it. You have much better stuff on that because you've done timelines forever.
Yeah, I mean, we did. In architecture, you're doing timelines all the time, especially in the design stage of a project. You've got consultants' drawings due at a certain point. You've got the architect's drawings, the reviewed periods. All that has to line up, and it may be a 1.5 year long process, and you've got to plan all those phases out. In events, we don't always have the luxury of 1.5 years to plan an event. Like you said, we were talking earlier. Sometimes it's 5 days to plan an event, but it's still, there's a logical progression of what has to happen before what, how long each step is going to take. I think one of the struggles that we have is how much detail do you put in a schedule? I know I can get bogged down in all the details that are going to happen to make something happen. And so you get, I'm going to save this file by 10 o'clock on Monday, and then I'm going to send it to the printer by noon. And it's just way too much detail.
And I think there are times...
And I think that part of what determines that is, what I was going to say, is it depends on who's going to use that schedule. If it's just for the client, it's probably going to be a much simpler schedule format than it is the detailed schedule that you're working on in-house.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think that you kind of have to think about your end result and what you need that to look like. I know we've given timelines to clients that only have 6 dates on it, for a whole year. Maybe it's a whole year project. It's got 6 kind of touch point dates.
Key dates.
And for us, we know that's going to be a lot more in a lot more detail. But again, we have the client I referred to earlier, one of our favorite clients. She has that accountant background. She wants to know almost minute by minute of what's happening and what's going on and when you're finalizing contracts and when checks are due and all that, which is very doable. But I think that also has the largest risk for complete and utter failure, as we've had multiple times. I think as a creative, I think the biggest challenge in my life has been some of the self-fulfilling prophecy type of thinking, where I almost can decide I don't do deadlines well, or I don't do timelines well, or I don't ever meet a deadline. And I think that sets us all up for failure. And I think as a creative, we've almost got to see that huge weakness that actually ruins business and kills clients and gets us fired, and really again put that in perspective of where it needs to be in our business, and then do what we can do to compensate for that. So for us, we've tried things like, we had a person in our office for a while who just managed the projects that we were given, so that she kind of kept us on board, when do we make that happen.
She was reviewing that schedule weekly to see what we needed to be doing that week
and where we were. And that was a huge help. We've shifted that role around, and that kind of faded away, but I kind of miss that sometimes. I think it's a challenge sometimes when we have vendors that we know are notoriously late. And I think, again, we've got to make sure that doesn't become a handicap for us, or we're not throwing them under the bus. That's the other thing that I can do pretty easy is, if a client says, why didn't this go out on time? Oh, it's their fault. They didn't get it to me on time. And that's not fair. That's not fair to anybody. I've got to be the one that takes blame for that. I've got to set myself up to succeed in that. So if I know someone's notoriously late, I've got to plan for that. And there may be times where
that goes back to knowing your vendors and knowing how they work and knowing what's going to make them successful.
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's setting an early deadline.
Exactly. And sometimes it's somebody else besides me checking in with them to see if they're dead.
Bad guy,
because I don't always do that well. So I'm like, oh yeah, get it to me by Thursday, you'll be fine. So I think that having the team around you that really supports that timeline, making it happen.
Yeah. So this is probably a good time to start talking about some of those programs that we have used in the past. We've used a little bit of everything. When I back in my architect days, we used Microsoft Project, which has got that Gantt chart function, and it ties everything together.
He loves Gantt charts.
I do really like Gantt charts, maybe too much. That's probably a little bit overkill for some of the things we do, although it might be helpful for some people.
I grew to love Basecamp for a while. We used Basecamp for 2 or 3 years, and then it became a little limiting to me. I'm still a big fan of Basecamp. I actually had a client who requested that they be put on some kind of a timeline, and we used Basecamp for that. We said, hey, let's all jump on Basecamp. It's very, very transparent. And so one of the things that we had to learn was we had to keep up with that. If our client's looking at it as a part of that,
and they see that something's not done,
that's huge.
It might actually be done. We just haven't updated it or something.
Yeah, exactly. We have another client who loves, you have Redbook. Oh, Red Booth.
Red Booth.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
They love Red Booth. I've not been.
Are they still using it? I think they may have gone away from it.
I don't know. I want to say good things about Red Booth. It's tremendous software again
it seemed like
program.
It was really powerful. It may be a little too heavy for.
Yeah, I think for us it was a little too complicated and detailed.
Yeah.
Had a little bit too much, but
and again, part of our struggle is everyone's using something different. You got one client using Red Booth, another one uses Asana, another one uses Basecamp. And we use Monday currently. So then you got 4 different softwares you're using. You got to look at all of them every week, and then you got an Excel spreadsheet for a schedule. And so
our PR firm uses Basecamp. They like it a lot, and you can easily add somebody on They can add us onto a project if we're involved in a project. It works out super great. We used Asana for more than a year. Very actively daily Asana. And again, I think part of our challenge is we are such a different creative business and that we're doing such a variety of projects. We have a project we've been working on for 3 years. We have one of our favorite clients called for just as big a project yesterday and said, the install is next Monday. Let's get on this. And so, we have just such a variety of stuff. And so getting something that kind of integrates everything without making it a person's full-time job, just to keep all that going. So what it comes down to is, for us, our favorite is spreadsheets.
Yeah.
We really like Excel spreadsheets, and Todd is the king of Excel, so that works out great. And he can kind of do that. He can throw in his Gantt charts if he wants to, make it all happen. But one of the things we do,
and I've actually found a great template for a Gantt chart schedule that we love and use pretty often. If you guys are interested, I can send a copy of that to you if that's helpful. But yeah, it's just, you plug in the week number of the project and the duration, and it just kind of shows it graphically on your spreadsheet, which is great.
We do a couple of things that are helpful to us. Todd and I have a Monday morning kind of distance look at the week of what all's kind of going on, where we need to do things. And we still have a daily, we're old fashioned, we have a kind of a daily touch base typically with our team. This is what's crucial. This is what came up overnight. Again, we have quite a few projects that are very urgent. Client called, we've got to have this done today. We've got to make this happen for them today. Doing a lot of guest experience stuff, especially in the corporate world. We have that urgency rises to the above. So we're still doing that. We're kind of looking at that. And then again, we have people in our team and within our office who are just kind of constantly monitoring our progress on where we're at, if we're making signs or what's going on, kind of our progress of, is that all happening? Did it get sent to print? Is it being taken care of? When's it going to be delivered? All that. And again, I think that's crucial that you or someone in your team close to you is on that almost hourly, daily sometimes. But I mean, really sometimes almost hourly of when's that arriving and what's going on.
Sure. Especially at the day of an event.
Yes.
You want to have everything timed out and planned, and someone managing that, kind of checking out, okay, the backdrop's here, the tablecloths are here.
Absolutely. We have a room down the hall where stuff gets delivered a lot of times. And I know one of the challenges of that is I don't know that it's there. And so I've kind of started my own little, I haven't told anybody this, I just kind of started when I go to the restroom or somewhere, I'll just kind of walk through that room and just see, hey, what arrived today and what's from the printer and what came from the mail and just kind of do a visual, because that's still helpful to me to know, hey, we're on track. What we asked for last week is here. We're good. We're rolling into, Thursday, Friday with everything we need. So again, that visualness for me is super great.
And some people use a whiteboard with a schedule on it, and just seeing that.
We bought a really
long,
nice
really
board.
helps.
I really like it a lot, but we didn't keep up with it as good as we could. Is that? I think
again, it's hard. It's a hard thing for us, and it's something we're working on. We're trying to find solutions for it. If you guys have solutions, we're open to looking at them.
We want to improve in this area. We actually lost business recently because we didn't do something on time, and that really bugs us. It was actually a prospective client, and we didn't get the proposal to them in like the time, and I can tell you all the reasons all day long that are all very good reasons, but in the end it didn't get done. And I think again, because of our client base, we tend to love clients who have urgency, who have last minute challenges. We handle that really well. We do those things really well. We're not a firm that takes 6 months to produce something. We can produce it pretty quickly if we need to, and I think that's definitely a good thing for where we are in the market. But it can definitely be a challenge to deadlines and how it fits in. I think the other thing that's important to me in deadlines is getting a read on that client of what is important to them and what those deadlines are. So the projects, we have a client right now who we're doing a lot of creative stuff for them, and I have figured out that they're pretty relaxed. And so for one thing, I can't let that drive me, but I also don't stay up all night and hurt myself to get something to them to find out, oh, they're on vacation or they don't really need it till next week. And then, like we said before, we have the opposite clients who, you haven't done this hour. What are you guys doing? Where you been?
It's 8 o'clock. It says it's supposed to be done today. Have you not done it?
Where is it? Exactly. Yeah, and I think the other thing about timelines is things happen, and you've got to have that space in your timeline for those things to happen. If that's an emergency surgery, if that's a car wreck, if that's a missed shipment. We went through a phase in our company several years ago where we had probably a month of just like shipping nightmares. I mean, like I met a UPS driver in a parking lot one time, giving her cash to, I don't think I'm supposed to say that, but begging her to give me my package, which she did. We've driven, we've done relay races from places to get something to us. And I think just knowing those things happen, you've got to manage for it, and you've got to prepare for it, and have, even plan B in place on your timeline of what if we don't meet this deadline? What if this isn't done, then this, So I think, again, just kind of planning in that contingency plan on your timeline so that if something does go wrong. My favorite story in this is 2012 or sometime. There was a tornado in Joplin, May 22nd, in Joplin, Missouri. At the time, we were using a contract graphic artist there, and we had a program book for an event that was many miles away from Joplin, and this contractor actually lost her house in the tornado, or quite a bit of it, and she immediately was, moving into a hotel and setting up shop, and within 6 or 7 hours, she was up and running, and she had a magazine to produce. She had our program book to produce. She had lots of things going on, and I have so much respect for her. So I just count her one of the people I love dearly because she made those things happen. And I think one of the things that you've got to plan for is that sort of things happen, and not all vendors are able to jump in and make something
recover that quickly.
Recover that quickly.
Yeah. One of the things I've jotted down here was, and I don't think we've talked about it before, but for example, in our larger projects, we'll do almost an hour by hour, or at least morning or afternoon by morning or afternoon, the week of an event that we're setting up. So we've got a list of what all has to happen on Monday, what all has to happen on Tuesday, working up to the event on a Friday or Saturday. And I think that has been really helpful to us, to help, especially because we're bringing in a lot of people at the last minute to help us, a lot of contract labor. And so if we can get all of them on the same page with us and knowing what the goal is for each day, they're not trying to set up chairs on Monday.
I think about the week-long move-ins where we do almost that hour to hour. The other thing that's super helpful to that is to have on your timeline what people are bringing, what's being delivered.
Yes.
So
they know.
So they know where to be and what's important on that timeline. And I think it's also important for them to see if they miss their deadline, if the chair cushions don't come, and then we have a crew of 25 people to put on chair cushions.
Right. They know what the cost is.
We're coming back to them. Yeah. And I think that's important for them to see how that all fits together. Delivery companies, or not delivery, rental companies, are notorious for kind of being on their own schedules. Mm-hmm. And I think one of our successes is the ones we can work with to say, getting this here by noon is crucial. And there have been some we've had across the United States, well, actually in Mexico too, where you just kind of go, they weren't able to meet the deadlines and really put us in a bad position. So again, that communicating that timeline is crucial. I like for vendors, I don't think we said this as clear as I meant to, I really like for vendors to have an active role in the timeline process. So early on, we'll do a rough draft, and back in the olden days, we called all the vendors together, had kind of a pre-meeting of like, here's the scope of the work, it's going to happen, and how do you do this? Now, of course, we use Zoom and email and everything else to make that happen very efficiently. But it's really getting their input on it, getting them to sign off on it and agree to it. If they think they can turn around something at a print shop in a week, then let them do that and let that be written down. And then, of course, giving them a copy of the end result and the expectations, but also remembering they're not going to necessarily be responsible to manage that. So I think that's important. Yeah. This has been fun. I really have to admit, it's really good. It's good to kind of review. I think one of the phrases I love that we put in our notes earlier was a timeline has got to contribute to the success and not to the failure. And I think that's just important for us as creatives to remember, is a timeline helps set us up for success, and that's got to be the contribution. So we would love your help and opinions. This is one of those times we really need some advice on this, especially on our varied projects. If you've had apps or tools or software companies that have been helpful to you in providing some sort of project management or something like that, send them to us. If you'd like to be a sponsor in project management on our show, come on and let us know what that's about. We would love to hear more from you. We'd love to get your input. You can always contact me at joe@rumbledrum.com and
Todd@rumbledrum.com as well.
We're also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the social medias, 72 social medias.
Almost all of them.
72 social medias our consultant tells us we're on, which I don't even know.
I didn't know there were that
what
many.
is that many social medias. But anyway, we're on all of them. And also you can listen to our podcast where you listen to podcasts. If you want to watch us on podcast, tune in to YouTube and you'll find our channel under Rumble Drum.
Or our website.
You
can find a link to the video on our website too.
Absolutely. We also have show notes on our website and a blog that a lot of times goes along with the topics that we're talking about, and maybe have pictures or more information than we can get all out here. So
that's right.
This has been fun.
Coming up soon, we're going to be talking about one of our favorite decor styles.
Ah, yes. I think that's actually 3 or 4 down the road. I love it. Yes.
Maximalist. If you haven't heard of it, check it out.
Check it out. It's going to be a fun topic. Thanks again. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks for joining us. Take care.